line, and I don't trust YouTube to delineate what's the line.
It's so hard. And I mean, we just don't understand yet, or we have no sort of ground rules on the particulars of moderating stuff on the internet. Because as you said, you get to a point where there's many clear-cut things, right? Like an ISIS training video. No place on YouTube for that, right?
Right.
But then you get into sort of like, here's a guy talking about, the like differences, parsing differences in Islam in a sort of like a political way. And it's like, well, is that kind of speech, is that okay? And again, I'm speaking sort of out of my ass there on that, but on every subject, as even with videos geared towards kids, there's always some sort of gray area sort of line. There's tons of people whose jobs it is to toe that line producing content. Like how titillating and exciting and weird can we make a video for kids that's kind of messed up, but it's also okay. But they're going to want to watch it and be freaked out by it. Like there are people who have turned that into like a cottage industry that makes thousands and thousands of dollars a day. Yeah. So what do you do? And the fundamental problem right now, and I think what scares me the most about YouTube, is that 400 hours of content are uploaded every minute. Like, what do you do?
But somehow they have at least put pressure points in for porn and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
they have some sort of technology that it's like if you download a porn scene on YouTube, that it goes down pretty much immediately. So why don't they have that same technology for other stuff that is damaging?
I think it's because of these weird gray areas, and all these companies. I talk to people inside them. I talk to ex-employees about all this. Like I started covering all this stuff because of harassment on Twitter. I started writing about that after the Leslie Jones incident.
That was horrible.
And everyone is just like, when you work at these companies, you're so afraid. They're so afraid of censoring someone wrongly, of being seen as, saying, well, because they believe X, Y, or Z, we have to, we have to kick them off. Like that.
Yeah, there's a freedom of speech part.
The founding of these companies, too, is based off of this sort of utopian vision of the internet, of this like very flat system where, you can upload something from the Ringer and it can get, as many views as dude uploading a video from his basement because he's got a really, like great point of view or something like that.
Or a 6-year-old kid opening toys.
Yeah.
Which is one of my friend Chris Williams, his company Pocket Watch. Their breakout star has been this 6-year-old kid. I think it's called like Ryan's Toys.
Wow.
He just opens toys.
Yeah.
And people love it. And it makes a crazy amount of money and the views are insane.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the benevolent version. The dark version is like, a variation of that, but it's like some crazy uncle pretending to kill the kid each time.
Sure.
And that's on YouTube. You could probably find that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you can find anything. And again, it's sort of, it speaks when you go down these roads on this, you can get like your mind just gets scrambled because say the unboxing video, right? It's a kid doing this really harmless thing meant for other kids, all good. And then all of a sudden you start seeing like creepy comments from, dudes with sketchy mustaches saying like, hey, on the next video, can you do this, this, this? Yeah. It's like, or, wear this kind of shirt.
Unbutton a shirt.
And it's like, so, okay, what do you do there? Obviously, you delete the comment, but so now you know that like these videos are, fulfilling some kind of weird thing for somebody else. And it's like, well, so does that make the video bad? No, but we clearly have a problem. And it's like, I mean, it all speaks to the scale of these platforms and what's been built. And the idea that like we've never had to deal with any of these problems in this type of way at this volume, at this speed, and with such like serious consequences. So I truly sympathize with these companies and the people there who I know are good people trying to figure out how to deal with this. But at the same time, I mean, like my unpopular opinion right now, when I get into some of these like reporting quandaries and see some of these things and hear people talk despairingly about it, I'm almost just like, pull the plug. Like it's just like, I don't know how else to solve this. And obviously we're probably not better off doing that, but it's also,
there's one way to solve it.
It's crazy.
And it's a way that's been sitting there for 20 plus years.
Are you going to solve the internet?
No, I don't. I think the ship might have sailed at this point, but in the late 90s, it certainly seemed like something that should have existed. And then it definitely seemed like in the 2000s, and now it's probably too late. But think about it this way. You need a driver's license to use a car. You need to pass basic competency tests to get on the road. We do not do that with the internet because the appeal of the internet is what you just said about it's a utopian paradise. And everything is based off this idea that, oh, this is great. It's the information highway. But the way that it's been misused and ruined over the last 20 years makes me wonder, what if we did have a driver's license for the internet? What if everybody who's on the internet, it was traceable, all your stuff, you had everything you posted on, you had your name and your ID, and you were easy to find. And would that make the world a better place? Again, now this is a utopian idea because it'll never happen. But there was a point in time where it feels like that could have happened, maybe. And now that time's gone.
Yeah, it's definitely gone. I think, the closest thing to something like that, and it's obviously not quite like that, is what some people are doing with like you always hear it like in the tech world, like the blockchain and this stuff. Like it's basically like creating a decentralized system of authentication. And that again,
can you explain that for 20 seconds? Because some people might not understand.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Basically like the blockchain is, and I'm going to get this wrong to some extent, is a cryptographic system that basically like anything that you do creates a transaction and it has to be verified and it's unique. And so it's kind of like a lot of people, it works right now for money, for things like that. Like I can see that transaction that you made. I can never alter it. I can never change it. I can trace it back to your unique ID. Yeah. And it's like applying that principle to everything. So, maybe to the way that we browse the internet. And so, you have that a little bit with, some of the technology behind the internet where like your IP address, where you're coming from, you can spoof that. The blockchain's idea is that nobody owns it. It's decentralized. Nobody can change it or alter it. And anyone can see it. And so if you apply that just very broad principle further out into the internet, there are a lot of people who talk about that technology as like internet 3.0. So we had like the Wild West sort of internet of the message boards and just like, all the AOL and the portals and all the fun stuff of the 90s and early aughts. Then you have
some of us are still on AOL. Be careful.
It's okay. It's okay.
It went down on Friday.
Our editor-in-chief at BuzzFeed has a theory that's you can always tell who powerful people are by their email address. Like if you have an AOL or like a Hotmail email address, or one of those things from like the 90s, it's like you got popular enough, you meant enough that you like couldn't change your email address. You were too important.
That's what I try to tell people, even though I'm just lazy.
So there you go. Just start like there's a.
By the way, AOL has never been hacked.
All these DC power players have AOL email addresses.
I bet Obama's on AOL. Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. Who knows?
So
you'd know better than I would.
So that was 1.0. What was 2.0?
2.0 is this, like the social, quote unquote, social web. It's all these platforms. It's sort of like,
look at me.
The reason why people don't go to, like don't have a homepage, essentially. You're getting everything through your social feeds. And it's chaos, right? And so like, the next idea is sort of like this authenticated type of web. And right now it's not a joke, but we're in this like phase where like in the tech world, like people are changing their startup names to like something and then just adding the word blockchain to it and getting, like $10 million thrown at them by investors because nobody knows yet what it is. And it's really got this like bubble mentality behind it. But there is this sort of like underlying hope that like maybe we can find a way to sort of take away, the chaos a little bit. Keep it free, keep it open, but make people more accountable.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus. How did you get it? How did you get involved? Just quickly, what's your backstory getting involved with all this? Is this always what you wanted to do? Is write about the internet, or did you run write about something else?
I mean, I just kind of wanted. I was just watching people like starting up blogs and stuff like that, and I kind of missed blogs a little bit. Like, like I had my own, but it, nobody read it. I was like in college, and I kind of just wanted to be involved some way, and so I didn't really know.
You want to be in the mix?
Yeah, I wanted to be in the mix. And no, I mean,
but did you know you wanted to report, or did you know?
I'm not. I mean, it's very vague. Like I too sort of think of what I do is like it's definitely reporting. I'm talking to people all the time, but like angles and like framing things and big picture ideas are like that's sort of always what I've gravitated towards and what I've really loved. And I think, I kind of like fell into the tech thing, but I've always just been interested in media and culture, and like technology's always just been a cheat for me. Like I don't really care about the new iPhone or what, like I don't care about the gadget side of things like that. And
that's what tech writing became for a while. And that's at the Ringer, we didn't want to do that. We wanted to write more big picture and angles, stuff like that, because we felt like that was a real inefficiency, and it's something that you've exploited better than anybody.
So this is what drew me to BuzzFeed to write about tech, because I wasn't really writing about that at the time. I was writing a lot about politics and stuff. What drew me was this idea of like, we're going to treat technology as culture because it's shaping culture so much. So, finding that lens, I think, led us to do a lot of weird stuff in like 2013, 2014. Like my colleague, Joe Bernstein's this guy, he was writing about video games, and then the Gamergate thing happened.
Yeah.
And I was editing our tech section at that time. And there was just this general, just follow that, like he knew it, I knew it.
Do you think that was the seminal moment for all the stuff we were talking about at the beginning of this podcast? Yeah. It seems like there's before Gamergate and then after. Yeah. And then everything after makes sense in the context of Gamergate.
Because it rose up into like the popular consciousness. It was one of those like fever swamp things that broke through.
I was super late on it. I never even did a podcast on it. I thought it was one of those weird internet things that had momentum, and I never really fully understood the ramifications until late.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a lot of people did, but
I'm not sure there might be people like my mom. I don't even think she knows what it is.
I mean,
probably.
that's a good case for a really good internet style like documentary or something.
Yeah.
Like a real, because there's been a lot of online writing about it, but good writing and reporting. But, something that's sort of more palatable to people who are a little bit offline. I mean, I think that's a story that we're going to see, or hopefully we do. But that, like, when we were writing about that early on, it was looked at as like sort of weird, sort of like, like, why are you devoting your time? Why do you care about this? And now it's sort of like every culture war on the internet is Gamergate, just,
DNA
shorter,
Gamergate.
faster.
Yeah.
And so I think, I felt like I was sort of toiling on the fringes and for a while, and then everything kind of shifted to the fringe like that. And so I just feel like
the fringe became mainstream.
Yeah. And so I feel like this is kind of, there's like a real urgency I feel every day, not to sound like, an ass, but just that everything about all this feels really urgent. It's never stopping. And I think that
it's definitely not stopping because it might start a war.
Yeah, and I think it's just because, this like technology is culture, and it's proven now, and it's, I mean, I'm a technology writer. I write about politics, I write about media, I write about, all like tons of different things.
But they all intersect.
And they all, everything, so.
Well, I think about it a lot. One, because it's my job, but two, because I have a daughter that's going to be 13 in 2 months, and I have a son who's 10. And I watch how they use the internet. I go on their accounts after they fall asleep. Like, I want to make sure nothing weird's going on. And to say that this generation is different than mine, I mean, you can't even compare them. It's like I might as well have grown up in the 1820s. But then even their generation versus a generation like Tate's generation,